When you think of the most difficult gaming achievements of all time, your mind might go to a couple different things. Maybe winning Evo, getting a sub 15 minute in like Mario 64. Your mind could go to any sort of place. It all pales in comparison to what I've been slaving over for the entirety of 2020. To understand what I had to go through, we have to go back to the beginning of 2020. Back to my New Year's resolution. 4 different resolutions. Let's see how I kept up on those resolutions. First one, I'm gonna make a drawing every month. I didn't follow that New Year's resolution. Not at all. Next one is making it out of pools in my local tournaments, in my local Smash scene. I'm a bit of a Smash boy. Tournaments got canceled very soon after 2020 started because of COVID. Deadbolt speedrunning. I haven't PB'd my record at all, I think in the whole year of 2020. But the last one. The plan is simple, okay? 2 games. 1 game. I fucking muted again. This is hard. I don't like holding this. 1 game that I buy, I need to beat 2 games. And that is 2020's most difficult gaming challenge. If you know me, then it's not that big of a challenge. I'll just go off rip. Take away the whole clickbait thing. I did follow through with this challenge, but I'm just here to talk about all the games that I beat this year. I will say, just to clarify the rules a tiny bit more, I do have 3 loopholes that I did create to kind of make this challenge a little bit more interesting for myself. For one, gifted games are allowed. I don't have to beat 2 games to get a gifted game. I just think that would become way too annoying and I would get pissed off every time someone gave me a game. I am allowed to buy gaming bundles. If there's a humble bundle that interests me, I am allowed to buy that for my 1 game after beating 2. I don't think I ended up doing that at all. And the last one is to clarify on multiplayer games. I didn't want to have to go the whole year without buying any fun multiplayer games, so I made a rule specifically on how to beat a multiplayer game. Basically, I have to play it for 10 or more hours and get at least 1 win in it. The first game that I beat of the year is Highway Blossoms. I got this game in a humble bundle for a bunch of like titty games, so I fully expected it to be some shitty, trashy, like jerk-off game basically. I actually started playing it in a Discord call with my friends as a joke, but I quickly found out that it's not really that easy of a game. It's not that face value, I should say. The game itself is basically about 2 girls meeting each other and following this dream to uncover a bunch of treasure that was thrown out throughout the whole west coast of America. Talking about stuff like Arizona, Utah, New Mexico, Nevada, California, like all those types of states is the setting of this. But like I said, the game isn't really what you would expect of it. I fully expected it to be some shitty titty game, but no, it was a little bit deeper. It was more about the main characters' romance for each other, as well as one of the main characters' loss and grief. I mean, I was very surprised on how deep the game could actually get for what I fully expected from it. Another thing about it is that they put a huge emphasis on the nature and exploration of the states that I previously mentioned, and that has actually had kind of an impact on my life, because after playing the game, I went out and explored a lot of what Southern Utah has to offer. I live in Utah, and I fucking love this state now, and I attribute a lot of that to this game, funny enough. But yeah, anyways, Highway Blossoms, I think I'd give it a solid 7 out of 10. It's pretty good. Alright, the next game I beat was Squirm. Squirm is a really cool game. It's an indie game. It's most definitely made by one guy. I don't know for sure, but I found it from my friend Jag, who is in the Deadbolt speedrunning community. But yeah, it's just a really quick, fun game, really cool platforming. Not a whole lot I can talk about it. To be honest, I only really remember 2 parts from it, and both of them are like you getting vored, basically. It's just vor the game. Any of you guys out there into vor? Maybe this game's for you, you know? I will also say that the very end of the game, it's called the purpose section. That's the game for me. That's the good part. If you've played it, I mean, there's very little of you who have actually probably played it out there. The purpose section is the final boss, and it starts playing this actually good music. The rest of the game's music is fucking god awful. It's so bad. It's really not good. It's terrible music. Anyways, the end music is fucking amazing. It's one of my favorite like video game soundtrack songs. And the very end, when you reunite with your rat friend, that part is super hype in my opinion. Alright, so I beat 2 games. I beat Highway Blossoms, I beat Squirm. I used those 2 to buy Pokémon Sword. Yeah. So the whole point of this whole challenge thing was to kind of clear out a lot of the games that I have on my Steam account. I have over 300 and I've only played like 200 of them. So this is a game that's been sitting collecting dust in my account for a long time, and that's One Screen Platformer. It looked like a shitty game, and to be honest, I mean, sometimes you can read a book by its cover, or whatever the fuck that means. The game itself took like 20 minutes to beat. I would not consider it a full game at all. If you're interested in buying this, like, just don't. I mean, it's not a complete game. It's so boring. It took me like an hour to 100% it, and it still doesn't even show up on my Steam profile as like a 100%ed game. For that, I give you a 3 out of 10. Fuck you. Maybe lower. I'll give you a 2 out of 10 because fuck you. So the next game is Borderlands. This is the first installment on my Borderlands journey. I mean, it's a good game. Like, all the characters are really quirky. Everything's kind of got its own personality. Combat's really rewarding, interesting, fun shooter game. I'm not really into the whole shoot and loot thing, but it's good. I would consider Borderlands a good game. That being said, looking back on it, a lot of it is kind of middle of the road for me. Once you look at the other installments in the Borderlands series, this definitely seems like the very middle of the road. It's up here, down there, down here. God, dude, get to the fucking point! I don't know what I'm talking about. Someone help. A lot of the first Borderlands is forgettable because it's so middle of the road. Looking back on it, I can only really remember the starting area. I think it's called Flintstone, or Firestone maybe, and the very end area, because aliens are pretty cool. Altogether, I think I would give Borderlands like a 5 or a 6, because... Alright, so that counts as 2 games, but I gotta continue my Borderlands binge, so for my 1 game that I'm allowed to buy, I bought Pre-Sequel. Alright, now we're gonna talk about Borderlands 2. Borderlands 2, if you haven't heard of it or don't know anything about it, I would highly suggest you go get some of your friends and play this game. It is extremely fun. It pretty much took everything from the beginning, the first game, and just amplified everything. It just turned the personality on everything up. All the guns have like quirks, not to mention the screaming gun. I mean, I will also say that the world building in Borderlands 2 is amazing. I never felt like anything was shoved down my throat, but I can very clearly tell you like different little pieces of the story and the world that I think the creators wanted me to take away from it without having to read a book on it or some shit like that. Honestly, I could talk forever about Borderlands 2. I think there's a lot to talk about this game, and I could go into specifics and character stuff, but I'm just gonna cut it there because I have a lot of shit to talk about. I think it's a 9 out of 10 game, pretty easily 9 out of 10. Shitty game, Moon sucks, sorry about it. 1 out of 10, fuck you. Yo, 2 games. Red is sus, guys. When the imposter is sus, Am I right? You guys play clarinet, trumpet? Among Us is pretty actually a good game. There's a lot of memes going about it now, but it's definitely like the game of 2020. It was all over YouTube. A bunch of people got famous off of it. I think Ludwig had a huge spike off of this. I've been a fan of Ludwig since Melee commentary days. Corpse is going huge. Offline TV in general, I feel like, is picking up a lot more steam because of it. Disguised Toast. But that's just the influencers. The game itself is actually incredible as well. I absolutely love games like this. The whole whodunit, like murder mystery type of shit. Look at games like Trouble in Terrorist Town. I've played that to no end. Danganronpa is one of my favorite games of all time. Favorite game series of all time. There's Mafia, there's Clue, there's Werewolf. All these games are games that I've played to death. That is like my type of game. And Among Us has definitely joined that rank for me. There are aspects to the game that I don't think are like the best executed, but it's still like super fun. And I love playing it with my friends. The only problem is getting enough of my friends to actually get a 10-person lobby, because everybody's fucking over it. The game popped off hard and then immediately just fell off the face of the earth, at least for like casual players. A super fun game. I'd give it 8 out of 10, easy. Oh shit, it's morning. The sun came up. I stayed up too late, fuck. Okay, anyways, Helltaker. Yo, you ever just wanted to like create a harem with a bunch of devils? Me too, bro. This was one of the games that I played really late at night. I finished it all in a night. It's memorable, but it's not anything that I think I would come back to anytime soon. I do like the characters though. I'll just throw up a tier list. Here's the tier list of the girls. There you go. Alright, so I beat 2 games, and I held on to this one free game that I could get for a really long time. HuniePop 2 was announced to come out like 2 years ago, and we hadn't really gotten a lot of info on when that was going to come out, so I thought maybe I would wait for that to come out. But I just didn't really have a game that I really wanted. That was until my friends started chatting me up about a little game called Risk of Rain 2. Now I've played Risk of Rain 1, and I was a bit of a fan of Risk of Rain 1. I bought it for a bunch of my other friends because I wanted to share the joy of Risk of Rain 1. And when I saw Risk of Rain 2 was going to be 3D, I said, yuck. I said, bleh. I said, bleh. That shit was nasty, okay? But my friend Aiden, he said, it's a good game, you should come around to it. And I said, why not? And immediately after buying it, I played the shit out of Risk of Rain 2. There was like half a month of my life where I was doing nothing but playing Risk of Rain 2. And if you go to my Steam account right now, it's my second most played game of all time. Of course I beat it, and then I beat it again, and then I beat it again. I've beat it a lot of times is basically my point. I feel like you could play the game an infinite number of times and still have a new experience. And I guess that's kind of the point of a roguelike. But I think Risk of Rain 2 might do it the best. Maybe. I will say, this is definitely my favorite game that I beat this year. Hands down, easily. I'm gonna give it, I want to say 10 out of 10. I really do. I think very light 10 out of 10. Like Anthony Fantano, light 10 out of 10, strong 9. Anthony Fantano, this one goes out to you, brother. I feel like this is a better angle. First half of this video is gonna look like shit now. I feel like GRIS has a hard act to follow, just going after Risk of Rain 2, which I just said was my favorite game of the year. But GRIS is an amazing game, and I fully think that everybody watching this video, if you have the money and the time, go out and buy GRIS and play it and tell me what you think, because this game is a lot... The way that I look at GRIS is a lot more like I would look at a piece of poetry or like a work of art, and it sounds really pretentious, but if you play the game, you would know what I'm talking about. The game has a narrative that's very vague and kind of lets the player insert themselves into whatever problem the main character in the game is going through. A lot of people finish the game and kind of take away, oh, that was a game about depression or anxiety. I played the game and the takeaway I got from the game was more of leaving a sense of security, whether that be moving away from your parents' house or leaving a long-lasting relationship and sort of getting back into the grind of what your life is and finding purpose and stuff like that. I legitimately think anybody who plays the game will come away with like a little bit different of an experience and a little bit different of a narrative. And I think that's a really, really cool thing about the game. And the makers of the game actually feel the same way. They have strictly not said what they think the game is about and what they meant the game to be about, because they know that it's so valuable for people to find their own meaning in that game. 7 out of 10. I'll give it a 7. After those 2, I bought Please Don't Touch Anything, yada yada, who fucking cares? The next game I beat was Gunpoint. I don't remember a single fucking thing about this game. I don't know why Gunpoint didn't register with me so well, because a lot of it is similar gameplay to Deadbolt, which is one of my favorite games of all time. I've speedran it. I love that game. But yeah, Gunpoint, nothing really too interesting about it, in my opinion. I don't remember anything. It was such a throwaway game for me. I'll give it a 4 out of 10, because there's nothing like straight up bad about it. It's just forgettable. And the final game that I beat of 2020, Please Don't Touch Anything. Please Don't Touch Anything is a game about touching things. God, we like to have fun around here, don't we? Yeah, the game's about pressing buttons and finding secret codes and stuff. You can look around the whole stage. Everything on the screen that will be presented to you is probably a code that you should write down and remember, because it'll be important later in the game. There's a bunch of different endings. It's a pretty cool game. I think there's this one guy who made a video on it. I don't know if I'll be able to find it, but if so, I'll link it somewhere. Also a cool video. You know what? Check out the video. Who cares about the game? Check out the video. Game gets a 5 out of 10. Who fucking gives a shit? And finally, to end the year off, you know I had to do it. I had to buy Cyberpunk 2077. Maybe if you want to like hear my thoughts about it, maybe subscribe, maybe I'll talk about it later. But that's gonna be it for this video. So goodbye. Have a good life.